Hey guys, just had the next insurance job dropped off. Hit a mailbox, started here in the front. Gonna do a little bit of a buff job there. Replace this fender. I've got an OEM fender for it that I've already got trimmed out. It's ready to be put on. New mirror assembly. The case of it's broken and also the glass, so we got the whole assembly. And that's unpainted, so that's got to be painted to match the car. I got a nice crease in the back door. And it's close enough to the front door that I'm going to have to blend probably the back of the front door and also the front. So I think I'm just going to run the color down the whole side and blend it out at the quarter and then just clear the whole side of the car. So I've got a good match back here. Since I'll have primer in this area, I don't have enough room to blend. So I'm going to go ahead and take the trim off first to make sure if I break anything, I'll have time to get a replacement part. And then I'll work on that dent there so that I can prime it as early as possible. So that while that primer is curing, I can work on getting the rest of it prepped for paint, and then I'll come back and block that out last. Alright, I did a pre-wash on this side just to clean it, so when I take it apart I don't get so much dirt in here, and I'm not taking dirty parts off the car to have to store. If I want to leave them in the car, that way they're clean. This was already off, probably showed you that. This handle will just slide back and come out. I'll leave that in for right now so that I can open the door as I need to. Working on the front end here. I took the screw out of the back of the bumper, and there were two clips. One right there with my fingers pointing at the bottom, one there, and then one a little towards the center. And a lot of clips across the top, and then one bolt here. Just pulled the whole front of it back and unclipped it from these two slots here were snapped onto this beam. Just pulled it out and was able to get the headlight out. There was just a bolt here, right there, and then there was a bolt in from the back side through that hole there. A bolt went in through to the headlight from the back. But I'm going to leave the front bumper on the car. That way I don't have to store it and worry about damaging the thing while it's stored. And I'm just going to pull this back and get the bolts out of the fender and just swap the fender with the bumper drop down like this. And I can even paint it like this too, that way I can get around this edge. I took the 3 screws out of this bracket, but it's still stuck in the fender, so I'm going to get the fender off and be able to pop that bracket off with it. There was a big 12mm head bolt here that goes into this bracket to mount the fender here, and there's 2 more 10mm bolts right there in the front of it. Then I'll have to go across the top and the back. I've got to get this molding and trim off. And I don't know if it'll come off with the fender or not. We'll try to do that, and that way I can get to the back side of any clips that are in it. But for now, I'm just going to focus on getting the front bolts out. Take this rubber trim off here, the seal, go across the top, and then I'll work my way down behind the door and see what I can do at the bottom. All right, I'm on the inside now, and they've got clips. There's a little sight shield on the fender here. I can bend this back and get to the bolt, but they've got clips here with a Phillips head for the center of the clip, and you can't get to that. So obviously they put the fender on the car. The door is off I guess the door is on when it's painted. They pull the doors back off, put this sight shield on here, then hang the door back on there. So there's no way to get to the clip to release it. So what I'm going to do is fold this down, take the bolt out there and slide it. It's slotted in the new fender, so I know I don't have to take the bolt all the way out. And there's one down here, and you can actually get it. It's already got a hole in the sight shield to get to it. So I'm just going to take the fender loose, and that sight shield ought to come off with the fender. I'll just have to remember to put the sight shield on the fender before I put it on the car. When I go to put the new one on it, I'll go ahead and put that on there. I may try to leave it off if I can. If I get it off and looks like I can be able to get the clips in it with it on the car, I'll do that, because I don't want to have to mask that off to keep paint off of it, because it'll show up on that black part pretty bad with the silver paint. All right, before I get too far with the door, I want to show you what I've done. This speaker cover, well, speaker I guess, and cover, just snaps off. I can't get this connector out. The release might be underneath the foam here, but I don't want to take it off if I don't have to. But I can't really shut the door with it. It'll get crushed in between the door and the dash. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get that off later. But for right now, I'm getting the trim off. There was one screw in the back of the belt molding right here, and I was able to lift it up, and it was pretty tight, but it's just a press fit across the top here, no clips. Finally worked it off. This piece was here. I actually took the joint there, and I wedged a trim tool between the two joints and just pushed it back a little bit just to start it coming off. And this piece here just wiggled it, and several little clips came right out. There's a locator there, and that one up there is not really clipped in. It's just kind of locating it too. But the bottom one there clips in, and then this one, my right hand, clips in that hole. And that slipped out of this section here at the top of the chrome. This part here is just pressed onto the door. So what I did was I stuck the trim tool underneath here and opened it up a little bit, and I've got a spreader, and I just stuck it in between there, and I'm just knocking it down by hand. So right now I'm just knocking down on the spreader, and it's pulling it off the door, and it's just got a channel in the back that grabs that flange. It's just a press fit onto there, and then the seal, I pulled the seal down to free it up. It's in there with the seal. I need to get this out of here, but I might be able to just slide it. Once I get it all the way loose to here, I may be able to slide it out, because this is going to have it caught, and I don't want to have to take that off. That's probably got double-sided tape on it, and I don't want to have to redo that. I'm going to go ahead and knock this off, and that'll have all the trim off the door except the handle for what I need to paint. I don't know if I'm going to take that bottom piece off or not. I think I might just tape it off, and I'll sand down inside behind there with either the fiberglass pen or a piece of 400 grit instead of taking that off, because I think I can do all this with the door panel on, and I would have to go in and probably take the trim panel off to be able to get to all those clips without breaking that, and it's just unnecessary. And that's just a blend panel anyway, and this is just going to have just regular paint there. I don't need to do any body work behind it, so just going to be painting these panels. So if I can sand down to that edge really well, that'll be good. Now the fender's off, it's over here. I had to take the bottom section of trim off to get to the bolts. Well, the one bolt at the bottom rear corner there, but I'll get all that off later. I think I can save all that with no problem, since I can access the back of it. Once I get this sealed back up, I'm going to run the glass back up, tape up these holes, and I'll do another rinse on this thing to get all the dirt out of here and down in here that I can't get to with everything back on. So I'll get the fender mounted after I do another rinse. All right, I finally got this off. This piece actually would be part of the molding when it's put on. So this trim piece here, this black, would be off, and that hook there would go up into this slot when this molding is put on in an upward motion. So that would go into that slot there and would go up with the molding when it's installed. So what I was able to do is, I couldn't pull straight out with it. I knew something had it. I just grabbed the molding, which was already all the way on there like that. It needed to drop down, but I could see behind there is double stick tape on that. So I just wiggled this molding, worked it off, and slid it off that plastic end cap. Slid it off the end cap, and I was able to get this piece out. And I'll do the same thing on the way back on. I'll put this on first, and I'll slide the molding onto it and get it inside here. And it's actually got a cutout in the back of it for that. That slot only goes, that channel only runs to right there, so I can get that right there behind the trim piece at the top right here, and just work it onto that cap when I go to install it. All right, I've got to hand it to Hyundai on this one. I'm starting to like them a little bit more now. I took the back of the handle out. All you gotta do is take the little plug off the back. That's just inside the back of the door there. Take the 10 millimeter bolt loose. It stays captive right there. And slide the handle back and pulled it back. I thought maybe I'd have to reach inside. I know Honda may do something similar, but I don't remember. The ones I've had off on Hondas, I've just disconnected inside the door because I was replacing the door anyway. But they've got this piece here. As this connector comes out of the door, there's a little black tab there sticking out, and inside there's a little barb. And as you pull this out, that catches on that barb. So as you pull out, that'll hold this in place, so now it won't fall back in the door. So I can unclip it here on the side, take this out, and leave that in for the paint job, tape it off, and I'm good to go. So that's a pretty nice feature there. I've never seen that. I hadn't really worked on too many Hyundais, but it's nice that it'll catch that for you and it won't fall back in the door, so I can just do all this work without having to take the trim panel off, which is going to save me a lot of time. Just wanted you guys to see that. It's pretty neat. Alright guys, it's time to start on this crease. I've drawn a line down the center of the crease with a Sharpie just to kind of give me a guide on what I need to grind off. I'm not going to grind off anything that I don't have to, just so I can continue to see the gloss in the panel to know how far I need to pull it. I'm going to take my file belt and just take the paint out of the crease, just enough to be able to weld studs down that crease and start pulling on it. Brush the rest of that out of there with my strip wheel, and I may need to feather it back a little bit more than that to get the electrode to touch to weld the studs, but I'm about to start that now. Okay, I'm just going to run studs down that crease, and I'll start on the ends and work my way to the center. Whenever I pull, it doesn't matter where I start with the studs really. Actually, I do need to start on this end. I forgot. I've got this part of my welder cut out that I used on a windshield once, so I need to start on that side so I can get them as close as possible together. That way this side of the electrode will touch, and this side is free to get right next to another stud, so I can get those closer together if I work from right to left. The closer they are together, the better, because I can grab 2 or 3 together with this at one time and pull a broader area. That'll help, and I want to get it straight. I'm going to continue on down. I'll be back whenever I've got them all on there. Okay, I've got all the pins on there. There's probably 20 pins on it, roughly. I'm going to start out here. I'm going to grab just this one, then I'm going to grab 2, and then I'll grab the third one with it. Just to slowly start pulling it from the end so I don't pull a high spot in the middle. I should be able to use this body line up here to pry against. Just got to be really careful. I'm going to slowly just pull. I'm not going to use the hammer just yet. I'm just going to watch the reflection up here and down here to see what I get out of it. I'll pull the second one a little bit and the third one, then I can start pulling 2 or 3 together at one time. Slowly lift it a little bit and come back. Get those 2. I'm going to work my way down, pulling it out a little bit from each direction towards the center. Then I'll start grabbing more than one at a time once I get it lifted just a little bit. Okay, I pulled each pin individually towards the center. I pulled from this side down to the middle. Just each pin I just tugged a little bit. And then I grabbed 2 at a time, and it's just about out now. slight waves underneath it. Probably need to hammer it right in here just a little bit in the deepest part of the crease right there in the middle. And you can see there's a wave. See right in here. I'll probably need to hammer that down. That's where the deepest part of the dent was, so it should be stretched the most. So I'll pull some more, maybe grab like 3 or 4 of these at once and tap this down a little bit. This is why I'll try to leave the paint so I can see exactly what I've done to it. I'll minimize my filler. So this area is a little bit high right there. And yesterday when I cleaned this thing, I found a wave up here because it actually pushed the handle in. It did break the door handle on the inside, so I got one of those coming. But there's a little bit of a wave all the way around this thing. Right in here, but that's not really that significant. I can probably get behind that and pull it out. That's gonna have to be fixed. And right in front of this part, you can see a little bit of damage, but I'm gonna see how much I get out of here with tapping this down when I finish it. And then I might be able to pull go from inside, drop the window and put a PDR tool down through here and push this area out, and I may be able to work that out too, hopefully. I think there is a brace back there, but I might be able to get to it. If not, I can try to go through this hole here. Maybe I can reach around this if there's a gap between the handle bracket and the door. But for right now, I'm just gonna work on this, and then what I can't do with the PDR tool, at least easily. Now, somebody really good probably could have PDR'd this whole dent out, but that wasn't gonna happen with me, and I'm already gonna have to paint half the car anyway, or half the side, so we're just gonna go ahead and fix this. I'm gonna finish working this, and when I get it tapped down where I wanna leave it, I'll show you that. Okay, I'm gonna start in the center. I've got 4 pins in the jaws of the clamp there. And since I can't really tap in here too easily because of this bar, I'm gonna start down here, get that high spot out, then I'll flip the clamp over and tap the top down. I'm having to move down a little bit. The high spot's sort of more to the left than I thought it was. But I'm just going to flip it over and do the same process across the top. Alright, I just about got it out, but I'm having to make myself a little more room, so I'm using the other just regular slide hammer to hold it. I'm not popping the slide hammer at all, I'm just using it to hold the pin. There's kind of a tight spot right there where it was deepest. That's pretty close. I'm gonna go get my little metal ruler, run my metal ruler through the pins and see if I've got anything higher than the surrounding metal, and that way I'll know if I pulled too far. All right, I'm just checking to see if I've got anything in the middle where it's gonna rock, and I'll know that area I pulled is too high. And it should be fairly flat. The door has a curvature to it, but I want this area to be flat so that when I cut the pins off, I can bury those in the filler. Not the pin itself, but the area that I welded to will be under the filler and not be sticking out like a high spot when I sand the filler off. I don't have to check every one because most of them are going to be about the same from one to the other, so I'm going to skip 2 or 3 at a time. Now right in the middle may need to be tapped down. whenever I go to do the filler work, but I'll have to see how flat it is when I get the pins cut off and ground down. I think I'm good on that. I may go ahead and cut them off. All right, everything's cut off. I prefer to cut these. You can twist it off, but if you twist it, a lot of times you'll tear a hole in the panel. There's no reason to do that. I'm gonna grind all this down with my little 3-inch grinder here, and then we'll take more paint off with 80 grit paper. I may come back and hit this with the grinder in the center again to get some good bite with the filler, but essentially it's pulled. I'm just gonna grind this off and then open it up some more for some filler. Okay, everything's feathered out. I'm gonna put a layer of fiberglass filler over the repair area. While that's curing on me, I'm gonna work on getting this out in this spot right here. And there's a tiny little ding right back here. I may be able to get that with the primer, but if I can get the PDR pick in there, I can push that out no problem and either get it eliminated or have it to where primer will take care of it for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and get the filler mixed up, get that wiped on, and then we'll go into working on these other dents. I think I'm gonna have to take that door handle bracket out of there anyway. Trying to avoid that. I need to be able to get primer around here. I may have to mask it off, but prefer not to take it out. I'm just pressing this in for adhesion right now. I'm gonna go back over it. That ought to be enough build for the initial layer. All right, I've worked out this area most of the way where I think I can just prime it with the rest of it. It won't need any filler up here. Primer will take care of it. And this part was pushed in just a little, so I've got my plastic trim tool back here and I'm prying out with the rounded end of this body hammer just to get that curve back out. I think I've just about got it. I've just been prying out on it there and keeping this over here from scratching the paint in the door handle pocket. So I think we're just about done. I had to take the screw loose from the handle bracket so I could slide it over and drop it down a little bit to get the hammer in there, but I can just pick it back up, put the screw back in the slot and tighten it back down. I think I might leave it like that for the primer work so I can put some tape in there or some paper, keep it clean. But I think for now we got everything straight. I just need to go through here and sand all this down and put one more final coat of filler on that. We should be done. All right, I needed filler all the way around this handle pocket, so I had to tape it up. While it's still wet here, I'm gonna pull this off. I put these on last, so I'm gonna start with those while it's still wet. Hopefully I won't mess it up here. This is one solid piece here if I can get it off. All right, I just got it to where it's not down in the pocket where I don't have to sand it back out of there. Paint's cracked here, so I'm going to take that down to bare metal once I get this ready for primer here. And this also is going to have to be sanded right here, but it didn't need any filler, so I'm going to sand all this filler out with a block. I just hit that with a DA before on the fiberglass. Let's get I'll start it with a DA real quick, and then I'll block it out, and then sand that spot right there where the paint's broken, and then sand all this around here with 400 and just get it primed so I can build some here to block, and that'll cover all this area. I don't have to worry about trying to feather paint back into here. Since there is a little bit of damage that was back here, that'll give me something to block out. Even though I don't really need it, I can flatten it a little bit more right around this area. I'm going to try to keep the primer out of here and out of this pocket if I can, just so I don't have to sand it out of there. I don't need any in there anyway. Wherever you put the primer, you got to sand it, so the less you can put on, the better.